Please go ahead.
Good afternoon, good morning, colleagues, wherever you are. Welcome to our one of the series of our Building Resilience Index training sessions. This is the first one in 2026 for Africa as a region. I've got my colleagues from World Bank Group, Matthew, Francis, who will be taking us through the BRI on the technical aspects of all the BRI. And then I also have Itauma, who's also a specialist in BRI as an engineer. I have Vanya Kandia, who is our operations officer for the World Bank Group under IFC. And myself, I'm the lead regional coordinator for the Building Resilience Index program for Africa. So I will hand over to Matthew and Itauma, who are going to take us through this training session. It's a practical and interactive session where we will allow us to have questions along the way, and that the whole team from World Bank Group will be able to answer your questions as we go, even though we still have dedicated timelines where we can have we can address all your questions. I think I can hand over to you, Matthew, to start with the presentation. We have colleagues who are joining us from across Africa, and I'm sure we've got different time zones, but yeah, we can start. I think we have close to about 50 participants currently. We will be allowing other colleagues to join as we proceed. Thank you. Over to you, Matthew.
Thank you, Petmore. I'll just introduce myself. I'm the technical lead for Building Resilience Index in Washington, D.C. It's great to be with you all this evening. And we're going to present three parts to the presentation. The first will be a presentation on the BRI itself and the tool, how it works and how you'll use it as an assessor. The second part, and Itauma will be presenting the first part. And then the second part I'll present, which is going over the responsibilities and roles of the assessor, how you interact with verifications, and then a short quiz. And then after that, we'll have a demo and I'll go through a project example. So three parts, and we should be able to get through it and take plenty of questions, have some discussion, and get you all home on time. So Itauma, over to you for the first section.
Thank you, Matthew. I'm sorry, I was having some problems here with my presentation, but I think it will all go well now. So this is the first assessors training we are delivering here in the Africa region. For those of you who don't know, the assessor's role will be to support the building owners in self-assessing for Building Resilience Index. We have conducted an enormous number of training for the verifier. The verifier is a different role. These are the professionals that will assess the property to see if the rating we achieve are the real rating for the letter grade. So in this training, we hope you will all understand what is the difference between becoming an assessor or a verifier, and also to learn more about Building Resilience Index program. Matthew, I don't think I can control the slides. I'm sorry. Okay, thank you. the training will be divided in several parts. The first one is an overview in terms of what Building Resilience Index means. The second one is the role of BRI Assessor. And the third will be to present some case examples and to interact more with you. During this training, we will have some pauses so that you can present your questions and we can hear what are your doubts and discuss, because we believe most of the audience are professionals from the building markets. What makes a building resilient? This is one of the first questions. We all know probably the answer to this question, but still this is a way of us thinking why it is important to build resilient buildings. Of course, the answer we will present here is more related to Building Resilience Index. That is the tool and a platform that IFC created to help the building sector to assess their assets, but also to understand if the locations you choose are good, if the material you are choosing are good, and if the main hazards that will affect your building will still make it possible for your building to function. So this is the definition in terms of IFC of a resilient building. It's a building which can withstand the natural and climate hazard that is exposed to, but also continue its operations. So ideally, we want the building to keep its physical integrity, but also to continue its operations without disruption following an intense hazard event. For those of you here in Mozambique, Matthew has shared here one example of the natural hazards we have been subject to in the last, I believe, 10 days now, flooding. This is a picture from January 2026. And as we can see, this building is under an extreme hazard disaster. So with Building Resilience Index, we hope to provide you with a tool and a platform that will help you self-assess if a building can resist to this type of hazards. So what makes a building resilient? I believe I've said it before, but here in more detail. First is the physical integrity. For a building to be considered resilient by Building Resilience Index program, it must show that after a natural disaster, this building will be capable of maintaining at least 50% of its physical integrity. Hopefully, the building will be able to maintain more than that, but starting from 50%, it can already be considered a resilient building. But also, as I said before, it is important for the building to continue its operations. So operational continuity is something that Building Resilience Index also adds on top of the physical integrity. So the first step for a building to be considered resilient is to identify the site risks. By identifying the site risks, we can understand if we are already choosing a location that is more prone to risks, to hazard risks. So if we choose carefully, we can limit the amount of hazards that our building will be subject to. And then we can, of course, design the building to resist to those hazards that cannot be eliminated, and construct based on this design that is already a design that is resilient. By doing so, and including some maintenance actions, we can indeed have a resilient building. So diligent maintenance is also important, because without maintenance, even if we self-assess a building, after years, this building can lose some of its integrity. So the maintenance is also an important focus point for a resilient building. What is the role that the buildings play in climate change? Probably you have heard before about EDGE. EDGE is the Green Building Program of IFC. It is to tackle the climate change issue by mitigating the amount of greenhouse gases that we are issuing to the atmosphere. We know that buildings contribute with at least 39% of the global greenhouse gas emissions from energy use. So this is relevant. And EDGE can allow us to minimize this percentage of risk. We can see that a green building may cost more, but this 3% of additional cost will be paid back in a period of 3 years. So from 3 years on, it will be only savings in terms of water consumption, in terms of energy consumption, and even in terms of embodied energy in the material. But we also know that the issue of the climate change is not only about greenhouse emissions, not only about sustainable construction, but it is also about climate adaptation. So we need to adapt to the climate transformation we are facing now. And this is where Building Resilience Index appears. With resilient buildings, we know that for each dollar we invest, we can save 4. This means that if we build resilient buildings, we may save in terms of the necessity of rebuilding or reparations, or even losing assets that you already had in your buildings. So IFC track records on buildings started with climate change mitigation using EDGE. EDGE has now 10 years, more than 10 years, and BRI is complementing this by addressing the climate change adaptation. BRI has now 4 years. So why each party needs a trusted system on resilience? Builder Resilience Index can have multiple uses and can have positive benefits for all the stakeholders that are engaged in a construction or in a building development. Starting from the construction developers that can offer better options to their clients. They can also promote themselves as constructions that are using the best construction approaches available. Financial institutions doesn't like risk, and by using Builder Resilience Index, we can minimize the risk of the investment. We can offer a product that is more reliable for the financial institutions, that is more sustainable, even for the building owners. In some of the more developed countries, home owners or home buyers are already searching for the factors in terms of resilience of their homes before buying them. So even the home owners wishes to have homes that are safe. So this is important also for them. In terms of insurance sector, is the same of the financial institutions, and the insurance companies can even offer a better rate for a building that is more resilient or that is more sustainable. Builder Resilience Index can also serve as an addition to the local government codes, because it goes beyond the code. the goal is not to replace the code, but to work along with the code and to show what are the best building approaches. So we have here a question, what is BRI? I think we have been talking about it, but if someone wants to interact and to share his view, it is very much welcome. So what is BRI, or Builder Resilience Index? Okay, no one wants to guess.
I see Emmanuel is unmiked. Was he going to give an answer?
Yes, please, Emmanuel, go ahead.
Okay, good afternoon, all. Building resilience index shows the capacity and capability of a building to withstand external forces or natural disasters and then still function with intent such a disaster.
Thank you, Emmanuel. Yes, it is a great answer, and it shows that you have been listening or you have already engaged with Builder Resilience Index before. Thank you for that. It is also a platform and a tool. We have more hands. I cannot see.
Yeah, Anna's hand is raised. Go ahead,
Thank you,
Anna.
Matthew, please.
Hello. Can you hear me?
Yes, Anna, please go ahead.
Building Resilience Index is, I can call it a hazard mapping and a resilience assessment framework. So which basically provides like location-specific hazard information and also provides resilience measures. And it's, it's more like an asset-based tool that used for buildings. And the audience is lost, like you mentioned, the government, insurers, the financiers, the developers, and general the entire built environment value chain. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Anna. This is a great answer. Thank you very much. I think we can move on. Matthew, please help me. Next time I have to control the slides myself. So as Anna has said, and Emmanuel, it is a verified self-assessment, because apart from doing the self-assessment of the building, this self-assessment can also be verified by professional verifiers that we will talk about in a few slides ahead. Matthew, I cannot see. Please. Yes, that can rate any building. It is important to state that any kind of building can be self-assessed with Builder Resilience Index. As long as we have a building, we can use Builder Resilience Index to assess it. And as Anna has explained better than me, it is also about hazard mitigation measures. So we will self-assess using the platform. This is an open source platform that anyone can use it. You just need to have an account, you register your account, and you can start right away self-assessing your building, as we will show you in a few slides ahead. So after this self-assessment, you will have a rating. This is a preliminary rating because it's only about the way you respond to the questions in terms of hazard mitigation, but it is possible to then have this property verified against the result of the self-assessment. And this is when you can have the letter grading stating what is the level of the resilience of your property. Thank you.
Also, Itama, before we go to the next slide, I saw Jose had his hand up. Did you want to make a comment, Jose, earlier?
Thank you, Matthew. Please, Jose.
Or we can come back to you later, either way.
Okay, or you can write in the chat box if you prefer, and we will read your comment. Thank you, Matthew. I cannot see the hands. So BRI is a robust and easy to apply standardized assessment. It is standardized, as we will see, because there are levels of resilience for each measure, and then globally for your building. It is easy to apply, as we will also show you in this training. I would say if you have all the information you need with you in terms of your building, how it was built, the type of solutions that were used, it is really straightforward, a straightforward platform to self-assess your building. So it starts with the hazard screening. There are global hazard maps and data, global coverage. It is possible to see some of the maps that are integrated in the platform. When you choose your location, you will be able to see what are the main hazards that your building is subject to. Right now, our platform is covering 14 hazard types. We will talk about it more in a few slides ahead. There are risk reduction measures that you can use. You can choose your sites wisely. You can choose to put your building in a location that is, for example, far from the coastal zone or far from the cyclone-prone zone. You can choose to design your building. If you are a professional, you can choose to design the building with a good foundation solution, structural solutions. Everything counts, and the way the several elements are linked to each other also counts in terms of resilience. So it's not only about location. A good location can minimize the hazards that your building will be subject to, but it is also about reducing the risk by designing better solutions for your building. And then we will have the third party that will provide the verification. In this image, we can also see how a letter grade looks like. This verification will be performed by trained engineers, local engineers or architects or professionals that are recognized in the country where they are going to perform the verification. And this is done in partnering with global service providers. And of course, this can be linked to insurance companies and to financial companies. As I said before, BRI can complement the local codes. It's not a replacement for the local codes, but it goes beyond the local codes. So code compliance is a prerequisite. That means that while performing the self-assessment, a few questions will pop up to ask you if you had submitted your design to the local government body that should confirm that your project is already aligned with the local codes. So Builder Resilience Index is not going to replace that verification, but it will show you how you can go above these local codes. Yes, it goes above, and it is conservative. So we don't want to tell you that your building is resilient. Let's imagine that the building is resilient in terms of geo-seismic, but then it is very prone to floods. So Building Resilience Index will consider the weakest link principle, and it will be conservative about it, and it will rate your building with the less rating you have. So if flooding is the more conservative one, then your global rating will be the one you got from the flood. But you still need to self-assess for all the 4 categories of hazards that Builder Resilience Index have. We have spoke about it, but this is a graphic where we can see that informal buildings does not comply with the building code. It wouldn't be possible to apply Building Resilience Index without the building following a formal building process. But after complying with the building code, you can complement with Building Resilience Index and increase the level of resilience of your building. So focus is not only on assets, I've been talking about assets, but it is also about saving lives. So with Building Resilience Index and the building code, we will be able to save lives and assets, not only lives. I can see that Anna still have hands up. Anna, would you like to comment or add something, or you just forgot your hands up?
Yeah, sorry, I forgot my hand up. I'll take it down.
It's
now.
okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. So building codes usually focus not only in saving lives, but also in health and safety, economy. For sustainability, we have EDGE, that is the Green Building program from IFC. And then for resilience, we have Builder Resilience Index. So in terms of environment, we can use EDGE. I take the opportunity to tell you that we also have trainings through partners for EDGE, so you can search about it, and sometimes you will even receive some emails from us talking about EDGE and how EDGE is being implemented around the world. Going back to Building Resilience Index, we have several rating levels. The more conservative one is the AA. This is the global best practices for buildings such as hospitals that can serve not only as a building, but also as a shelter, also as a place where people can go to have support when we have a natural disaster or a natural crisis. So an hospital could aim at being a double A. With the rating from A, we can have strong practices. These could be also some schools, some small schools. I would go and say that for schools with thousands of students, I would recommend personally to aim for a AA, but also an A is a good standard for a school. Most of the buildings we currently have might be standing at a B because they have already been built, maybe in a time where we were not that focused in terms of resilience principles. So if your building is rated a B, that means that it is already a resilient building that is complying with all the basic practices in terms of resilience. If none of these three is achieved, then the building will be rated as a non-resilient building, or NR. This means weak practices are in place, or the building was an informal building, unpermitted. The plus means that not only your building can keep its physical integrity, but it has the ability to continue functioning. These are the operational continuity measures that we have around 10 in the Building Resilience Index app, and you must comply with at least 3 to have the plus. As I said before, most resilient buildings will be at the B level, unless we start thinking about it from the design. It's not really costly for new buildings, especially at low risk sites, because if we think about the resilient buildings from the beginning, we are able to integrate those measures from the beginning and avoid the additional costs. I believe this was already explained, that it is relative from the NR to the AA. The responsibility and liability remains with the building owner, that is the one that must decide to pursue this rating, and the professional team that will support. And I will take the opportunity to explain that we can have the role of assessor that will support the building owner in self-assessing the building, in case the building owner doesn't have the knowledge to do it. It's not a real requirement to hire this professional, but this will be someone prepared to do it for the building owner in a good and professional manner. So the verifier will come after, and these should be 2 professionals, one of them being a structural engineer that will verify all the measures that were considered as a yes in the platform, as to say the building has this measure and it is compliant with this measure. It is a free open source tool that starts with the hazard knowledge. Usually I like to say to clients and to business owners that the first benefit of using BRI is the hazard knowledge. Even if you don't complete the entire self-assessment because there are still information missing, from the location of your building, you have the first benefits, the hazard knowledge. You will know what are the main hazards that your building is subject to. And with this information, you can start the mitigation process. So you also have the mitigation knowledge. The program will offer you this process of mitigation according to the hazards that were identified for your building. And then the information can be verified by a verifier. Here we have a quiz. So we have 2 identical buildings. They are both EDGE certified. They are green buildings. I was going to ask which one of them you think is more resilient, but you can already see it here, that the first one is an A and the second one is a non-resilient. But still, we have this question. Why do you think 2 identical buildings that are sustainable buildings, these are green buildings, one of them is resilient, rated A, and the other is non-resilient? If you want to intervene, just put your hands up, please. Anyone?
I see Adoya. Is it Adoya?
Yes.
your hand up?
I don't think he wants to answer, but yes, please, maybe a comment, Adiole. Hi.
Any other takers?
Okay, more. You have
Here,
more seconds.
Alexandra has commented.
Yes, it doesn't count because he's a verifier. But yes, it's a good answer. If these buildings are in different locations, they are subject to different hazards. So it is, of course, it makes sense that one of them is rated A and the other one is rated non-resilient, because maybe the second one is in a location where it is subject to more hazards than the first one and should be more resilient, should have more mitigation measures to respond to those hazards. This is the explanation why we can have two identical buildings with different ratings. So the answer was right, Alexandre, different location, and we can see that the hazards are different. The second building is subject to earthquakes, while the first one isn't. The second one is also subject to typhoons, while the first one isn't. So they have different hazards, and maybe the way the building was built, designed and built, was in a way to respond correctly to downburst, subsidence, and urban flooding, but did not consider typhoons and earthquake. And for builder resilience index purpose, you don't really need to mitigate a risk you don't have. So if you don't have typhoons in the location of the first building, you don't need those measures to respond to typhoons. So who do you think is the customer of a resilient building? Who is the customer? This is an open question from Matthew. So if you don't like the question, we have Matthew here, please.
There's no wrong answers. Who do you work for as an assessor? Is another way to frame it. Who do you have to satisfy? Edson has his hand raised, and George has made a comment.
Yes, good afternoon. So I think if the customer, the first one, it is the government and the community. I think I'm sure about this.
Okay, that's a good one. If it's a government building, the government would be a client, and they also need to be satisfied from permitting. I see someone else had a hand up. Was that Jose again? And then Edson?
I see several of answers, right? The banks, developers, building owner. Some of the answers are at the chat. So all of you are right, okay? But we also have the mother nature, right? If we serve the purpose of resilient buildings, we also serve the mother nature, right? You agree?
If one of those customers isn't satisfied, what happens? The owner or the assessor usually works for the owner, whoever that is, but it could be, like you said, a developer, an architect, could be an insurance company in some cases. So what happens if you don't satisfy both customers?
Let me see if we have a few answers here.
Dilson says also reinsurance companies. That's true. They can get involved. We are working with Marsh and some of their affiliates that include reinsurers.
Yes, definitely insurance companies are one of the stakeholders. Of course, they deal with risks. So here in this slide, we have the 4 categories of risks Building Resilience Index have integrated. And the 4 categories are wind, water, fire, and geoseismic. All the 14 hazards we spoke about before are in one of those 4 categories. So for wind, we have 3 hazards: downburst, tornado, typhoon. In the category of water, we have urban flooding, coastal flooding, river, lake flooding, flash flooding, storm surge. In terms of fire, local fire, wildfire, and for geoseismic, subsidence, volcano, landslide, and earthquake. All of these are hazards that are site-specific, except for local fire, that is unrelated to the location. It comes from the use of the building. But I should say that even if you think your building is not located in a hazard-prone zone, as far as Building Resilience Index is concerned, you will still have at least one hazard for each of one of these categories, because this is the only way to have this holistic approach and to assume this conservative analysis that will have a self-assessment in all the 4 categories. So at least downburst, urban flooding, local fire, and subsidence are hazards that will have to be mitigated in any kind of building. Yes, fire can also be external, that is true. And in terms of wildfire, Building Resilience Index will assess it according to your proximity to forests. So if your building is built in a location that is near forests, you will have to tackle that hazard. You will have to respond to that hazard. Any other building still needs to respond to the local fire risk. Thank you, George. Moving on.
So
yes, please.
This slide is a hint on the question that there are many ways Mother Nature can demand things of you for the building. So if we don't satisfy all of these natural hazards, as you said earlier, it's not resilient. Just like if you don't satisfy your customer who's paying you to do the assessment, they may not want to pay you. So you have to communicate to them that both of these need to be met. They may have challenges to address the mitigation measures, but it can't just be that we sign off an assessment for the owner and it doesn't meet the natural hazards. So it means sometimes on high hazard sites, you have to look at it from required investment and maybe phase it, looking at finance. There's sometimes difficult decisions owners have to make with the knowledge that we're presenting them. So that's why we say you have to satisfy both customers. You can't leave both alone, and it means communicating risk and helping them strategize. And we'll talk more about that.
Truth. Thank you, Matthew. So these are the defaults. Matthew, I'll definitely leave it to you to present this one, since it's more about the background that is integrated in the program and also a forecast in terms of what are the future conditions we can expect.
Sure. Thank you, Atama. This is a new feature in BRI where we are forecasting future conditions of 2050 and 2080 for climate change scenarios. And this is using World Bank models, climate models. We bracketed those 2 future years depending on how far out your owner may want to look. Some owners are planning their future investments, looking at change, looking at transitions. And we also have in the app, when you go to the Explorer view, you can choose a strong or low mitigation. And that means assuming it's an assumption, are we following the green curve, really curbing the emissions down strongly, that strong mitigation, or are we not doing as much, would be more like the gray line, or doing nothing like the yellow line. So we can make assumptions and do these what if scenarios for the clients. And the things which we can forecast through those models are the average temperature in different ways, plus precipitation. Those climate hazards are in there and they relate into things such as flooding. We actually have flood models that are there. And we also have a landslide model that you can look at 2 windows from 2016, 2100. So that gives you a chance to help them plan ahead. The other thing to note out is at the bottom that there's certain hazards aren't related to the climate, earthquakes, volcanoes and subsidence, and fire. The fire can be related to drought if it's wildfire, and those kinds of future models are not yet ready, as is wind. So right now, and that's across practice. We're not seeing really forecasting of those yet in practice, but the things that we're trying to plan for in the future, temperature, precip, flood and landslide, those are now built into BRI as scenarios you can run.
Thank you, Matthew. So I have a few more slides and then I'll hand it over to Matthew. Yes, okay. As we said before, any type of building can be self-assessed with the Builder Resilience Index. The building can be a new or an existing building or a retrofitted building. BRI can be used. It can be a residential, office building, retail. It can even be mixed use or airport or port. As long as we have buildings there, Builder Resilience Index can be used to self-assess and verify the level of resilience of the building. For buildings in design or construction phase, the BRI rating is tentative. That means that we cannot say for sure that the building meets a given rate if the building is not yet built. We can only verify a building that has already completed its construction phase. It is, though, recommended that you self-assess during design or even during construction, because by doing so, you can adjust some measures if you wish so that you can improve the level of rating of your future building. So the final rating will be only given after the final verification. I have already explained the weakest link principle, but we'll explain with this example. I think it's more easy to understand what the weakest link principle means. In building example 1, we have a building that in terms of fire has achieved the AA rating, but in terms of geo-seismic has achieved only B. So B will be the overall rating of building in the example number 1. For example number 2, we can see that in terms of fire, the building is non-resilient, even though in terms of water-based hazards, the resilience of the building is AA. The overall rating of the building in the example 2 is non-resilient because the program will follow the weakest link principle, or as we said before, a conservative approach to make sure that once we issue a letter grade stating that the building is of a B rating, it is at least B rating in all of the category. Can only go up, but not down. We have a comment from Petmore that is very important too, that we should all note that BRI does not assess infrastructure like railway lines, power lines, bridges, or roads. We need to have a building. In terms of the selection of mitigation measures criteria, this is more to explain how, in terms of the solutions you choose, you will be rated in the AA level, A level, B level, or non-resilient level. Let's say to resist to a wind speed or a typhoon. If you have designed and built your building to resist to less than 200,000 kilometers of hour of wind speed, then your building might be a non-resilient building. If the building is located in a zone where you have typhoon. It is important to explain that, because if your building is in a zone where you do not have typhoon, you don't really need to be concerned about the wind speed that is related to typhoon. There is this difference in terms of the platform. In terms of floods, not tsunami, the Building Resilience Index will analyze the level of the first floor elevation. So to be rated in a AA, you should have your first floor elevated more than 6 meters. But in any case, if it is located less than 3 meters above the level of the water, then your building will be a non-resilient, because that means that in a scenario of a natural disaster related to water elevation or flooding, your building will not be resilient. We have one comment. I'll just read it. Given BRI focuses on buildings only, are there plans to align it with complementary tools for transport and utility infrastructure? I will leave this question to Matthew, that is our technical lead, and can answer this one. Thank you.
Sure, I'm happy to address that. And the answer is yes, we have formed a partnership with the Center for Disaster Resilient Infrastructure, part of the UNDRR affiliate, and we'll be working with them on their tools, as well as the Global Facility for Disaster Risk Reduction, which is within the World Bank. We are collaborating with them through some partnerships which have formed internally. So that is the intent. Buildings, of course, are in all sectors, including infrastructure, to control them. And so there's a need to look at both from a whole community. IFC focused on buildings, since that's the largest single sector in the built environment, and one which BRI does a lot of investment in. But we also do work with other entities. And it also raised the question, someone asked about, I think it was Jose said, what about subterranean and maritime buildings, structures? There is a trend, there is a relationship. So when we say ports, it could be warehouses, but also anything that is a wall, you could use design with BRI. So if it is a retaining wall or a port quay wall, we can analyze it as a structure. The structural engineer will design those. So that's one area that you could be doing some work within part of a bridge, or if it's say a retaining wall, or if it's a port structure, those could be assessed with BRI. But anything that is not a structure that is analyzed like a building, That the problem is we also don't have the cost information together for non-buildings. So we'll rely upon the infrastructure sector to partner on those pieces.
Yes, we have a question from Felipe that wishes to know if there are other frameworks, tools for assessing railways and bridges and roads. So as Matthew said, we work with some partners in this area. Maybe we can share this information with you and the names of the tools that you can explore for those. Just to move on quickly, in terms of fire rating, is more about the fire rating of the key building elements. So if the key building elements can resist to fire for more than 3 hours, you can be rated in a AA. The building can be rated in a AA. If it is more than 1 hour, but less than 3 hours, in an A level. And from 30 minutes of fire rating, you can be rated in a B. But for less than 30 minutes of fire rating, your building will not be rated as a resilient building according to Building Resilience Index. Just to complete, in terms of earthquake, we have the seismic base isolation for AA rating, a braced structure for A rating, a reinforced walls for B, and locking or all of the above. You cannot, your building cannot be rated as a resilient. It should have at least one of those measures to resist to an earthquake. I will not take too much time in this slide since we will have a live demo. This is more to explain that you can target what is your goal in terms of rates, in terms of rating. And with this table that is also integrated in the user's guide, you can see what are the relevant measures for your targeted rating. Let's say you want your building to be rated B. So in terms of in terms of wind hazard type, you need at least 2 measures. The WD3, that is your primary structure, meets the structural code requirements. We have spoken about it before. And the WDC6, that is still reinforced for main building elements. With these 2 measures in place, you would be able to show that your building complies with the measures that are required for a B level in terms of wind. But it doesn't stop there. You should also look into the water hazard type. So you have 5 measures that you should show compliance with for a B measure, and in terms of fire, 3 measures, as we said before, at least 30 minutes of fire rating for key building elements, but also you should be able to show that there are emergency access routes and your circuits and wiring have a proper wiring protection. In terms of geo-seismic, you have 5 measures again. 1 kilometer distance from earthquake. If you are in a zone, your building is in a zone of earthquake, not located in a historical recorded landslide area, and also the elements are well connected. In terms of operational continuity, there are at least 10 measures, and the building should show compliance with at least 3 to have the plus, so that it can be rated a B plus. For example, if the building is already a green building with a certification from EDGE or LEEDS, that counts for OC01, if the building has water supply, a backup water supply to meet at least 25% of the building needs for 3 days, as we have, for example, here in Mozambique. This can count as the second measure. If you have the building have solar panels, that can count also. Backup energy generator, this can count also for operational continuity. But I know Matthew will talk more about this, so I will not take more time.
Yeah, Nitama, I'll just say that the other usefulness of this slide is that it can help to avoid sticker shock with your customer. If they're seeking a B, you can see it's not that many measures. If you only have one hazard, it's a much easier achievement than if you have all 4 hazards. So you can see how much a site can vary in terms of the complexity needed to achieve a resilience rating based upon the number of hazards and what rating you're seeking.
Yes, thank you, Matthew. Actually, it's a great point, because I've been focusing more on the technical part of being an assessor, but it is important to remember that you, as an assessor, you will be dealing with your client. And this client maybe is not a person that is a professional from the building sector or engineering and architectural profession. So it is important to manage the client expectation and to explain in an easy way what is the level of effort needed to achieve a given rate. I believe I've spoken about this. This is just to show how the measures can also be graded. You can start by the green certification, cooling heating system designed for extreme heat cold, but moving on from there until a post-disaster protocol in place, even to have storage for emergency supplies, or a multiple access entries to site and building, or a backup communication if line let's say in a scenario of a natural disaster, you lost your main communication line. So if you have a second backup communication line, this can count as an operational continuity measures, because it will help your building continue its function. In summary, what are the BRI terms? It is a free and open source platform. A BRI rating can be valid for 10 years unless a major event occurs. We will see what can be considered a major event. And it is a rating, not a certification. We have the EDGE, that is a certification, can certify that the building is a green building, but BRI will only provide a rating to say that at the time when the verification occurred, this was the level of resilience of the building. So it's not a certification. It is also important to explain that to your clients, to manage expectation and explain why. This is because we are dealing with the nature, as Matthew has said before, and Mother Nature can be unpredictable. So even if we say that today we do not have one risk or one hazard, there is nothing that can assure us that in the future that risk will not appear. And this rating will be verified on site by 2 registered building professionals that are verifiers. So what is a major event? A major event can be a damage that follows an hazard event. If there is an hazard event, it is mandatory that you revise your your verification, your self-assessment to assess the level of damage your building had or not, and to confirm that your building still maintains the same level of resilience that is in the letter grade. If your building is renovated, you might have some changes in terms of mitigating the risks. So it is important to redo the self-assessment and verification to confirm if your building has now changed some of these measures. This can also be a situation where your building was rated B, and maybe after this renovation, it is now in an A level. And also a major change of use. If your building was rated to be used as a residence, and now the building is going to be used as a health center, then it is important to revise the rating and check if it's still the same rating. I'm going to open the floor to questions now. Thank you. Please raise your hand or just write it in the chat box.
If there's no questions now, we can go on to the next module.
Yes.
We'll try to speed through it there. I hope this has given you a chance to think logically how the system works and what the objectives are in terms of understanding and addressing natural hazards. The next section we'll go through is going to be talking about the procedures of an assessment. And I see a couple of comments if you want to respond to those. They're flashing off my screen. Can you see them, Italma?
Yes. Yes, I can go through the questions. Is there an exam for assessors? Yes. After this training, we will share the assessors protocols and what should you comply with to take the exam. And hopefully for those of you wishing to become an assessor, you will be able to respond to this protocol and take the exam. What is the difference between a rating and a certification? So the certification is a certificate, as the name says, that you can have from, let's say, EDGE, that states that your building is certified as a green building. And this is something that belongs to your building. In terms of rating, we are just confirming the status of your building on that time, on that particular time. We are self-assessing and verifying your building against the natural hazards, or not only natural hazards, that is subject to. There is a question before this one. If we have... Okay, Vanya has already responded to this one. Please go ahead, Matthew.
Yeah, also the certification versus verification is really a legal distinction that, as you mentioned, because we can't control nature, we can't warrant against nature. And that's what a certificate does. It's like a warranty in legal terms. So as design professionals, you'll have the same issue in other design liability as you design buildings, that we don't certify or warranty buildings, but we design to our best practices and best standards and codes. And those mean that we have integrity of what we're providing, but we're not guaranteeing that something, that it will definitely resist something we can't predict. We do forecast hazards, and we design to standards to resist most hazards based upon risk. So that's why we don't do certification of BRI. It's in line with the other design professional requirements from addressing natural hazards.
Matthew, I think you can go ahead, and
Right.
I'll respond to the questions here, and then some of them we can share after your presentation. Thank you.
Okay. Well, So this next few slides, and we've got about a little over 15 minutes, almost 20 minutes. We'll go through to help you understand your role in performing the assessment. And it's a big responsibility because you're assembling information on behalf of an owner, so that to diligently and truthfully evaluate and declare a building's hazard mitigation measures or resilience measures with required supporting information so that it can be verified by a third party. So that's the role in a snapshot. And in some ways, like facility condition assessments, you may be familiar with the FCA world. This is in that same vein. If you have been in the field and done post-disaster assessments, it's a good experience to understand how you're looking for damage and evaluating. And if you haven't, I would encourage you to volunteer as engineers or design professionals to go do post-disaster assessments, a way to see how buildings fall apart and to better appreciate what resilience measures look like, and make you a better assessor for BRI. So that's been a really good part of my experiences, to be able to do that and learn from failures. The other aspect is that I mentioned assembling information about the building and the site, performing the assessment within the tool, documenting and making those determinations, investigating missing information, and identifying the designers of record will show that, and then to coordinate with the owner and the designer and the verifier. So you're really, it really is a coordinating role to bring those parties together and to also help the owner understand their needs for each of their resilience ratings, and to choose a rating they want to achieve, and to help them understand the value of it. So with that, we'll have more of these features built in, but first thing, we need to organize site information, which can be intensive if the information is not available, but it starts with topographic data and looking at the site development, what's been done to it, and what's been altered. You also want to understand if it has been formerly flooded, if it's been a reclaimed land from floodplain or a water body. Those are big red flags that there's risk. Also, you want to understand what water body is near. There's elevations that Itama mentioned, 3 meters above the water level. That's the nearest standing water level, not the flood level. So if you have a lake level or an ocean level, it would be above that elevation. So on hills, it's easy to achieve flood mitigation. In lowlands, it may not be as easy. In many cases, it's very difficult. So we want to understand elevation of water features, elevation of the building, and if the groundwater is, if the HVAC equipment also is as important as the first floor, that needs to be above that same elevation height so the building can continue functioning. A lot of times drainage development can exacerbate a site, so we want to check that stormwater flows away from the building, and then look at the costs to achieve a resilience rating. If you have to elevate, it can be very high, and so sometimes that's a showstopper. But it's understanding that there's true facts about flood. We also need to understand distance to wildfire and distance to fault. Those are big issues for design. Other information, what design code year it has, when the construction is completed, and what type of building it is. All of the attributes, materials, and elements need to be documented. For the hazard applicability, BRI will do that for you. You need to review what it tells you if it makes sense. We've been doing some adjustments. Some places of the world are remote. The maps cover the whole world, but there's always bugs in large software systems, so they can come up. We're working to address them as they come up. But if you see a discrepancy in the app, explain what you see and bring it to us, and we'll go in and investigate and debug as needed. But the hazards given to you should make sense to you from a local standpoint, and ask questions if they don't. And then if you have better data to determine that a hazard is not applicable, maybe a local flood study or a wind study, we need to review that. We can remove applicability if we have data showing that it is not applicable, that supersedes the default data in BRI. You also have to affirm, besides checking the hazards, affirm the resilience measures. You're going to reply yes or no. but we also need to explain how they're applied or will be if it's a new building, or how they are applied if it's existing. And then after design, provide the evidence of the drawings and calcs related to those measures. And again, we mentioned if it's not applicable, we need to document that. And one of the things that there's a maybe option, that's a placeholder. It won't account towards the rating until you make it a yes, but it does serve as a reminder to go back and check it during design or during construction. So you can use this as a tool that way, but until it's confirmed a yes, everything in the system maybe is turned as a no in the ratings. And then when you assemble all this, I mentioned part of your role is to help the owner develop a strategy to look at the benefits of different ratings and measures, and find their path to the best resilience possible. In completing the assessment, we need names and contacts of the designers, the contractors, material suppliers, and also one thing we're introducing is a practicum. So for your first two assessments, we'll assist you with the review and coordinate what you're learning there, and then that sets you on a course before you go and do large amounts of assessments. And so those are two features that we're adding to the documentation and the process. Then you hand off to the verifier. Their job is to review what you've done, and it's important that when you do a complete and correct rating, it makes the verifier's job very easy. It saves the owner money because they can quickly go through and efficiently identify and do their work in a quality manner. So you're doing the handoff. The verifier also has responsibilities. They will question if they see inconsistencies about the hazard, just like we ask you to do. We want two sets of checks on this. They'll verify the measures you've selected, that they're correct and they're applied correctly. They verify if something's not applicable as well. And they also, their job is to go and do a check on the building itself to look for deterioration or quality defects. And so with that role that they play, their site visit, and their check of your assessment, we have the system which allows the rating to be what we call bankable. The banks can use it as a basis for investment, and insurance companies can use it as a basis for incentives in their insurance premiums. So that's why we do independent verification, is so that all parties have trust in the outcome, that the assessment was done correctly, and that a third party has checked it. But the assessor job is to set up the project and perform the assessment and help inform the owner, assist the owner in all of that. The verifier's job then is to sign off so that it can become a bankable verification and rating. Hazards can have inconsistencies. The mapping may be incomplete. You can add applicable hazards if you have avalanche, for example, that would fall under like a landslide. We can add hazards that may apply. And also, if it's uncertain, we want to be conservative. Again, this is to protect the investment. So if we don't know something, we don't want to be liberal in our estimation. We've tried to build that into BRI. But things can be refined during design where you get better information. So that's the whole point of the evolution of putting in contingencies up front during finance phase and planning, and then going through design and construction to refine design and get better information about the hazards measures. Here's the requirements. To be an assessor and take the exam, you must be a building professional. It could be an architect, engineer, construction manager, so forth, and a developer. But you also need to have some kind of a professional certificate and a resume that you send to BRI with 5 years of experience in the industry as a licensed professional or practitioner, whatever the area of your work is. There's facility condition assessors also. That would be an easy transition to take on this role. You have to have the training, which you're taking now. If you meet the 5 years requirement, submit the information, we'll get you in the exam, and then you will get a certificate as an assessor. And then there may be some updates and continuing ed that will be rolling out over time. Your also job is to steward the files on behalf of the owner. So retain those documents that are necessary, and only those that are asked for in the app go upload to BRI. IFC. We don't want to be custodians of all of this information, just the primary evidence that it's meeting individual resilience measures. The verifier will also need to see the information in the files, and if you have 1,200 sheets of drawings, it may only need to see 20 of them or so, depending what the hazard is. So your job is to sift through that and help make their job easy. The assessors are not under contract at IFC. You would work for the owner, and in that way, you have an independence from IFC to correctly perform the assessment on behalf of the owner. Or if you work for an owner directly, then you would be their representative. The verifier also can reject an assessment if it doesn't comply, and IFC also retains that right as administrator of the system. We can help arbitrate if there's differences of opinion or missing information to help you work through those issues. Some things are not easy to see. Errors and omissions in design and construction. Have to be on the lookout for those. There's also things like defective materials, poor workmanship, poor maintenance. We have to be a sleuth in doing assessment to look for those features, and they may need to be addressed as part of the assessment. Inappropriate change of use. If you have a barn you've turned into a textile factory, it needs to be upgraded appropriately, not just left as a barn. So in maintenance, also older buildings, look for subsidence, any cracking or settlement of the foundation. You also want to be looking for cracks of the structure itself, any corrosion, water stains. Those are all clues for problems. So now we're going to take a quick quiz. Like to try and answer these yourself, and if and somebody offer a response to the group, and we'll go through them pretty quickly here. First question is: BRI users can set target rating based on building criticality. Thinking of a B, A, or AA based on criticality. Any takers on that question? In other words, if a building is more critical, would you go for a higher rating? Is that part of the process that BRI looks at? Any answers? Okay, Adoya? True. That is correct. As with the codes, the risk category 1, 2, 3, 4 for more critical buildings, whether it's a hospital or a critical government facility, those are the ones that you aim for higher ratings, such as a AA. And we've mentioned in schools and housing would be lower ratings. But so that is sometimes you'll have good criticality information to make the case why it should be an A or AA. Okay, next question. BRI allows for local solutions by being performance focused, meaning it sets, here's the elevation for a flood. So you can use local solutions to achieve that performance. Is that true or false? That's true, correct. Thank you, Naomi. If you have a practice for elevating buildings, or if you are able to do grading or rerouting the water in certain ways, in some cases in seismic, you have local practice for reinforcing, like stone mason practices. So we welcome other measures and technologies that are useful locally. And that's why we've made it a performance-based system, that it doesn't replace the code, but local codes and practices are certainly part of what we need to verify in BRI. Third question, BRI relies upon a building's mitigation measures rather than public defensive infrastructure such as flood walls. True or false? Naomi, you've got it. Does anybody disagree? Daniel, I think we see a lot of agreement here. And Patience, Amanda Edson, correct. The reason being, we don't want to, thank you, Gobo. All right, everybody loves this question. The reason is we want to protect the investment and not things we can't control, rely on things we can't control. If a public defensive infrastructure fails, we want BRI to still have the measures in place to protect it, which is why we use elevation in the case of flood. And so that's a case where one of the things you do need to check, though, is the storm drainage that goes to a site to assess its performance. You may not have full control over that, but we want to rely on the building's measures, something that we can control on behalf of the owner, and that's why we don't rely upon a defensive infrastructure. Okay, next question. IFC can randomly audit verifications anytime. That's a pretty simple one. It's true as the arbiter of the system and creator of it. Well, that's our role. Again, we don't do the verifications or the assessments, but we're here to assist you and can answer questions and help you work through it. Are there any questions from the audience on these roles? It's a very exciting role in both post-disaster settings and in helping to plan for them. It's a really rewarding way to help your owners protect their investments and help the communities become more resilient and save lives and help protect our local economies also. So we appreciate your interest here. And I see Vanda, you have a question?
Yes, no, just
I know
information that I posted in the chat, the requirements to become an assessor, the names of the people who are focal points for different countries and regions, so you can send your credentials or engage with these colleagues before we can approve your access to the exam. And also, please, if you can fill the survey so we can improve our trainings going forward, is also a link posted there. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. And I saw a question now from James. You have to be a registered professional to perform an assessment. That's correct. Having said that, we do train young professionals, and you can have someone younger work under you to support you, but the assessor who is signing off the assessment has to be a licensed professional. Or licensed or credentialed, yes. Was there another question? I'm not seeing the screen now.
Yes,
Where?
Matthew.
Okay.
How is the BRI assessment intended to complement EDGE certification in practice? And are there specific design decisions where BRI findings typically influence EDGE strategies?
That's a good question. You want to take a stab at it, or do you want me to, Talma?
Yes, I think I can answer to this one. Yes, BRI and EDGE can complement themselves because both of them will make your building more sustainable. But if you are looking for specific options, you have a lot of them in the operational continuity measures. Because if your building is a sustainable building, that means that you might have a certificate for that, and this will count with good operational continuity measures. You might have solar panels. This can count also as a good operational measures. You could have a storage for water tank for water. This can also be counted as a sustainable measures if you are collecting the water from the rain, for example, and also for BRI as a secondary means of accessing water. These are a few examples.
Thank you. There is a synergy. That's why we give points for green certification, and for those reasons you just said. I saw another comment. One question about Uganda. Yeah, there we go. Thanks, Vanya. Any other technical questions? I know we're at the bottom of the hour here. And we have an example to go through, but I think we're out of time. What we can do is send the slide deck and have you work through those and report back to us what you found. We could do another, we'll have another session also that we can have as a follow-on, but I'm just mindful of the time. So let's see, any other questions here? Yeah, we've got Congo.
For all Africa is Petmore the focal point, so please get in touch with him. Italma covers Mozambique and Tanzania.
So what, with that as a wrap up, what we'll do, I was just going to show you here we went through the verification list, and that's really the heart of what the examples were, is to walk you through that list of verifications. The user guide is on the BRI website. So if you can go to the website, this is an example of, the site evaluations we talked about developing. And if you go to the website itself, you'll see, where is that slide? There, openresilienceindex.org, and you can create an account. You can go to this learning tab, and it has the user guide in it. And it can go to the Explorer tab, and you'll see the different hazard layers that you can see which hazards apply to your area, put in your address, create a project, and then it will tell you the applicability and the intensity of the hazard. So that's part of the exercise. We'll send you some information so you can complete that on your own. And then, like I said, we're introducing a practicum so we can meet with you individually and go through the measures as you perform your first 2 assessments. And so anyways, good luck on that. We appreciate your interest. Hope all of you that have your 5 years of professional experience will take the test to become assessor, and also encourage the younger ones to team up with people with 5 years so you can help work towards that as you advance your career. Vanya, you have your hand up?
Maybe it's from the last time. I shared also a direct link to the user guide.
Okay, great.
Oh, yeah.
So you've got the link there. We'll get the slide deck out. Any other final questions before we send you on your way? Petmore, Itama?
I'll just do
some closing remarks from you, Petmore?
I'll just do the closing remarks once you guys are done. I'm sure we don't have any other questions.
Obaid has a question. He said there's their monetary benefits.
Maybe we could respond through email, since we have all the contacts. If there is any question we missed from the chat.
Yes. I will just say
we
that
can do
the
that.
cost of each measure and the cost to attain resilience is being programmed in the system right now. And the protection levels are estimated as percentage of loss. So yes, there is assistance on the pricing, and that's being programmed now in more detail, but it will help you initially with a top line number.
Okay. Yeah, I don't think we have any other questions. We have run out of time. So I would like to take this opportunity to thank our presenters, Italma and Matthew, and Vanya in the background, and all the colleagues from across Africa who managed to join this session. The number of participants already is a testimony that climate change is a reality, and that we require solutions like BRI to create sustainable cities. I guess this was too much to process in 90 minutes. But as the team said, we are here to offer support, technical support. You've got our email addresses. Please feel free to contact us anytime. Send us emails, as many as you can. Your feedback is very critical to us developing and fine-tuning the BRI application itself. I think points to take. We have all learned today that what's the definition of BRI. We now know the framework for BRI, the rating from AA to NR, the hazard categories, how location is very critical to the BRI app and the measures of buildings. Also, what are operational continuity measures, the role of an assessor, requirements to become an assessor, and the process itself. Yeah, the next step would be those who qualify to then take the test. Once you've emailed us your documents and we have approved online, we can then allow you to take the test. The pass mark is 80% for you to become one of our assessors. And I'm hoping that at least 90% of those who attended will write, if not 100%, that is. Yeah, and good luck to everyone who attended. With all that said, we can close this session. And as I said, we are open. You can send us your emails with any queries or anything that you need to know related to you becoming an assessor or clarification on and the application itself. I know you are going to face challenges with the app in the first days, so we'll be there to offer you the technical support. Thank you. We can close the session.
Thank you very much.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you all. We will share materials.
Bye. Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Ṣe iye ọ̀rẹ́ mú gà.
Hello, sir.